Hello and welcome to Beyond the GPA's video series, Preparing to Launch. I'm Anna Maria Wenner.
And my name is Maura Mulligan.
Maura, in our one of our college success skills is social connection, which we know is so important to success in college. But behind that is social anxiety, which we know so many of our young people, especially young people in high school, are really struggling with. So I know that there are a lot of families out there that want to hear what you have to offer about how to manage social anxiety with their child.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anna Maria. And I think social anxiety, especially in this kind of not necessarily post-COVID, but as we've gone through COVID world, we're definitely seeing more and more of that with our students, which makes sense. When you think about the impact of COVID and, first like people quarantining and staying home and then wearing masks. The masks came off in K to 12 for most schools at some point last year. And that may have been really hard for some students as well. I know we were hearing that from students that they were feeling some anxiety even about their peers that they've known maybe forever, seeing their maskless face and talking again with their face being seen, which is heartbreaking to hear from our students, but I think really highlights the impact of the pandemic on students' anxiety. And so I think social connection, especially as we're thinking about this senior year, and hopefully for many of our students, their senior year this year is going to feel a lot more normal than the last few years have for them. But how do you begin as a parent to pay attention to any of that anxiety and social anxiety in particular that has really ramped up over the last few years? Because of COVID, it was very easy to avoid social gatherings and to stay home or to be kind of isolated during the school day because people were maybe distanced, 6 feet apart and masked. It was very easy to sort of have that feel like a normalized experience. And we know as students are coming back to being in person and connecting with one another through high school and what we're going to want next year for college, that we really need them to really re-engage, to sort of be able to reconnect and to be with their peers. And that sort of kind of quarantining at home time when we were maybe a little more inner focused and kind of watching movies and being on technology, which felt maybe okay and was normalized a bit during COVID. For many of our students, they're really struggling with coming back to kind of in person and that connection. And so I think anything that can be done this senior year in particular to have students doing that, to what were the clubs that maybe were on pause at your high school for a while and are now back to in person that your student can participate in? How do you have them begin to, if they haven't done this already, reconnect with peers or to find some new peer groups? Because it can be very, very easy to just stay on technology and stay on social media and connect. And we know that's not going to serve them well next year when they go off to college. And so thinking about those steps this year to sort of say to those students who've gotten maybe a little too comfortable with the difference in how they're interacting because of the pandemic, and to really think about what behavior they need to change this year. And so I think that's really important, especially for students to understand that feeling anxious in a new social situation is really normal, right? Because sometimes they often will think, I'm really anxious about it, so I should stay home because then I don't feel anxious. And instead, we really need to talk to them about like, you're going to feel anxious because all of us do, or most of us do, when we go into a new situation. And we have to be able to do that and learn to tolerate that because otherwise it's going to be significantly harder, when you go off to college and you're maybe in classes with people you don't know and living with people you don't know, which is maybe different than high school where maybe there is some kind of baseline of connection. And so really taking those steps this year to think about that. What we don't want to see is students then, coming off to college and not being able to get out of the car when they arrive for orientation or move-in because they're too anxious, or, you're leaving them behind if you've moved them in, and then hearing from them that they're not leaving their room, that they're not going to the dining hall to eat, that they're not making connections with other people. And so those really can have really profound impacts on students' success at college if those skills and that ability to manage that anxiety isn't addressed. We really encourage you to be thinking about, especially for those students who are prone to that social anxiety already or who were exacerbated because of the pandemic, to really start working on skill building and getting outside of their comfort zone and finding clubs, organizations, and students to connect with this year, even things that make them a little bit anxious, so that they're practicing and prepared to do that next year. So if any of this is sort of resonating with anyone and you feel like you want to kind of learn more about how to manage student mental health, making sure they have their anxiety kind of under control or managed or skills in place for next year, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.